The train station was alive with the sound of clattering footsteps, rolling suitcases, and the echo of announcements in rapid Japanese. For 2-year-old Kai Yamato, the bustling energy of Saitama was an incomprehensible blur of sights and sounds. His small fingers clutched his mother's hand tightly as she guided him through the crowd. His parents, Akio and Marissa, had arrived in Japan with a mix of hope and uncertainty. Leaving behind their home in São Paulo, Brazil, they sought better opportunities in the industrial heart of Japan. Akio, who used to work as a mechanic, had taken a factory job assembling car parts, while Marissa planned to take care of Kai and find part-time work when she could. They had heard of other Brazilians making a life in Japan, but no one had told them how isolating it would feel. "Kai, look at that," Marissa said softly in Portuguese, pointing to a sign filled with foreign characters. "One day, you'll tell us what all this means." Kai didn't understand her words yet. At 2, his world was a swirl of nursery rhymes in Portuguese and the occasional Japanese phrase his parents tried to pick up. But he didn't know that his parents were already counting on him to become their bridge to this strange new land. By the time Kai was 7, that bridge had been built, and he was the one holding it up. His Japanese was fluent, picked up quickly from school and the television programs he watched while his parents were busy working. At home, however, they still spoke Portuguese, clinging to the language of their roots like a lifeline. Kai had become their interpreter, their problem solver, and their guide to a culture they didn't fully understand. "Kai, can you come here?" Marissa called from the kitchen, holding up a letter she had pulled from the mail. Kai set his homework aside and walked over. His mother handed him a slip of paper covered in neat rows of Japanese kanji and hiragana. "What's this about?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. Kai squinted at the text, slowly piecing together its meaning. "It's the electric bill," he said after a moment. "They're saying the payment is late." Marissa sighed, placing a hand on her forehead. "Late again. Akio will have to deal with this when he gets home. Can you write down what we need to say to the company?" "I'll call them tomorrow." Kai nodded, fetching a piece of paper and scribbling down a simple explanation in Japanese. He knew the script by heart now. It wasn't the first time his parents had struggled with the language barrier, and it wouldn't be the last. School wasn't much better for Kai. In class, he was often quieter than the other kids, listening intently but hesitant to speak up. He understood Japanese perfectly, but the weight of his classmates' judgment made him hold back. On the playground, they noticed his silence. "Hey, Yamato," one boy said, blocking his path as he walked toward the swings. "Why are you so quiet? Do you even know how to talk?" Kai looked down, clutching his lunchbox tightly. "Maybe he doesn't," another boy chimed in, laughing. "Maybe he's just some weird foreigner." The word stung, gaijin, foreigner. No matter how well he spoke or how many kanji he memorized, that label clung to him like a shadow. At home, it was different. Marissa would greet him with a warm smile as he walked through the door. She always asked about his day, even though Kai didn't have the heart to tell her about the teasing. Instead, he focused on the familiar smells of home, the feijoada simmering on the stove, the sweet aroma of powder keiho baking in the oven. "Kai, dinner's almost ready," she said one evening, wiping her hands on a towel. "Why don't you play something for me on the piano while we wait?" The piano was a gift from one of Marissa's Brazilian friends who was moving back home. It was old and slightly out of tune, but to Marissa, it was a treasure. She had enrolled Kai in lessons shortly after they got it, hoping music would give him something to be proud of, something to call his own. Kai sat down at the piano, his small hands brushing over the keys. He started with one of the simple songs his teacher had assigned, a neat little classical piece. But halfway through, his fingers drifted into a melody of his own, something more upbeat and rhythmic. It reminded Marissa of samba, the music of her childhood. "That's beautiful, Kai," she said, closing her eyes and swaying gently. Kai smiled. For a moment, he forgot about the boys at school, the late bills, and the heavy responsibility of being his family's translator. Music, at least, didn't judge him. But the world outside their small apartment didn't share the same warmth. One rainy afternoon, Kai walked home from school with his backpack slung over his shoulder. His shoes were soaked from the puddles, and his hair dripped as he climbed the stairs to their apartment. As he turned the key in the lock, he heard voices from inside. "I don't understand why it's so hard for them to leave us alone," Akio was saying, his tone sharp. "They don't understand us, Akio," Marissa replied softly. "They think we're different." Kai stepped inside, and the conversation stopped. His parents greeted him with strained smiles, but he could sense the tension in the air. He didn't ask what they had been talking about, he already knew. It was the same struggle they faced every day, trying to fit into a society that saw them as outsiders. That night, as Kai lay in bed, he stared at the ceiling, his mind racing. He thought about the kids at school, the strangers in the market who gave his parents puzzled looks, and the heavy weight of responsibility that seemed to grow with each passing year. "I'll figure it out," he whispered to himself. "I have to."